hopefully it's a good education. Might be turned right up in politics, eh?
Never know.
Welcome everyone. I'll now declare the meeting open and remind everyone to turn their electronics off. Please put them on vibrate so they don't interfere with the meeting. And we have one regret, and that's from Councillor Steve Bjorkman, who is on vacation. And at this time, I would like to welcome our new Youth Council member, Ava Hoffman, who is in attendance this evening, and I'll present her with her name tag this time. Come on. Believe it or not, very first night, Ava has something she's going to talk about. Says it's only going to be 48 minutes, so that's really something first time. At this time, I would ask if there's any conflicts of interest amongst the council members. No, thank you very much, and I'll now turn it over to our clerk, Mr. Auger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under adoption of published agenda, looking for any additions. Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of additions to this evening's published agenda. The first item of note is at the request of the delegate, he has asked us to remove public presentation 5B. The project referred to as part of that presentation is not going forward at the time, so that we can delete 5B from tonight's agenda. And then secondly, I just asked Mr. Chair to have the minutes and agenda reflect the fact that council met in closed session earlier this evening pursuant to section 239C of the Municipal Act to consider proposed disposition of land. And as a result of that meeting, direction was provided by council, and so accordingly I asked the agenda and this is further to council's direction, to add as new business the property known as 7173 King Street West. We'll add that under new business if that's council's wish this evening.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other additions? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just, under unfinished business, would request an update on the bylaw when it comes to commercial vehicles parked in residential areas. So an update on the bylaw through the clerk, please. And another under new business, actually, no, under old business as well, a question to the CAO on have our town staff reached out to developers in Ward 4 to meet with them about the decrease in developmental charges to spur development in Harrow Centre. And also, under public presentations, if we can look at adding Miss Diane Chevalier, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, as a public presentation. She has, as we all know on council, something that is coming forward in the Finance Committee minutes, but the Finance Committee minutes are near the end of the agenda. So if council can please have her speak during the public presentations, then she won't have to sit here for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I think we may have to deal with that item number 1 right away. Would I be correct, sir?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Did you get all the Councillor Bondi's?
Speaking to the Chair, Councillor Bondi, can you rephrase the second item? I know the first item was an update on commercial vehicles and the status of the proposed bylaw. I missed the second item.
The second item was just an update from the CAO's office on whether or not staff have had a chance to reach out to developers in Harrow Centre or Ward 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And did you get the third item?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yep.
Now, my question is, Councillor Bondi is trying to get this lady to appear in council before the finance issues comes up. Now, we would almost have to do that immediately, you know, if we're not going to have her speak. No, if we're not going to deal with the issue under finance, I think Councillor Bondi is looking to have it brought up.
Motion to add her as a delegate.
Exactly. So I have Councillor Snively and then Councillor Votes.
Your Worship, I don't understand, Councillor Bondi, you want her to have a chance to speak? Is that what it is?
Bonnie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if the resident is to speak to the finance report, she would have to watch for it on a published agenda. When she saw it on a published agenda, it's too late for her to become a delegation. So the only way to allow her to speak to such report is to kind of piggyback her in this way, because she couldn't find out when it was going to be on an agenda. I think that has to be in a motion.
Right, but
Okay, Councillor Snively?
further to that, Your Worship, did she understand that it was coming in front of the Finance Committee? Did she know that, or no? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Votes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look at, Mrs. Chevalier was not afforded the opportunity to what I see justifiably, put her case forward. She had no opportunity to do that other than email. And if anybody's seen the email, and all you've seen it on council, where I said very clearly I would represent her here tonight because she didn't have the opportunity to speak on her own behalf. So here tonight, I am going to represent her, and I want to represent her under public presentations in tonight. And then if there's something that Mrs. Chevalier could add to it, I'm going to be looking for a seconder to allow Mrs. Chevalier to speak on her own behalf. And it's as simple as that.
Okay. To that point, the lady had a problem. Doesn't matter what the problem is. She filled out the form. It came to the town. The town deals with it in a finance meeting. It comes to the finance committee. It's dealt with. I think everyone in the municipality knows how it's dealt with. And the committee makes their recommendation, and it comes, which happens to be to tonight's meeting. Here's a recommendation from the finance committee. The lady has told us all exactly her thoughts, her feelings. We've talked to administration, you know, and we have administration here to speak to exactly the contract that has been signed by both parties and everything else. So we base the finance committee on all of the information collected from the town and from the said person who put in the request. It's been dealt with, and it will be discussed at the appropriate time here under the finance committee meeting. Now, you want the lady to be able to speak to her problem, which we all know is what it is. So you have the right to make a motion that they be allowed to speak, get a seconder, and then we can vote on whether we allow her to speak to it or not. That's where we'll go. Okay. Councillor Bondi.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'm not finished yet. I had the floor.
Okay, Councillor Votes first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to make it confusing. Look at, we as representatives, we get committee meeting minutes. In the committee meeting minutes, I don't agree with what the committee decided. So I'm just gonna ask tonight that I question the outcome of the committee meeting minutes, and all we're asking, and all that Mrs. Bondi is asking, that this lady, we can move it up so she doesn't have to sit here all evening. But if council wants her to sit here all evening, then I guess she'll have to sit here all evening.
But we're prepared to do that. I asked you, I gave you the opportunity to make the motion.
I'm making a motion that we move it up to public presentation.
And allow
and allow Mrs. Chevalier to speak.
Okay. Seconder? Councilor Bondi, discussion. Councilor Caxero.
Through you, is there not a motion on the floor to receive the agenda?
Through the chair, there is a current motion to receive the agenda with the noted revisions and additions.
Oh, we did? May I ask who made the motion? Supported it? I don't recall. Just additions put on. We haven't made a motion yet.
Yep, my apologies, Mr. Chair, I don't think we have, we don't have a mover and seconder on the
Yeah.
main motion.
So we're just adding materials. That's all we're at. So
Yep.
okay. So we do have an opportunity by Councilor Vokes, who made, no,
Sherry seconded.
Councilor Vokes made the motion. Councilor Bunny. Further questions? Deputy Mayor Malash.
Just a comment. So we've already, as Councilor Brooks already said, we've already all read all of the emails that Mrs. Chevalier has sent in, and what her argument is for what she wants. It came before the Finance Committee already, that particular letter, and the contract that was signed. And later on, when we talk about what happened at the Finance Committee meeting, we can discuss why the Finance Committee went in the direction that it did. But at this point in time, I don't know if it's, there's no need to hear the argument again. We've already, as Councilor Vokes has said, we've already all read the letter. We've already heard everything that Mrs. Chevalier would say tonight. She's put it in a letter already.
Okay. Anything further? Councilor Bondi.
Thank you. And just reviewing the agenda, I see our Assistant Facilities Manager, Jay Affleck, is in the audience, and I believe, I'm not sure if I'm correct, that this is the only reason why he's in the audience as well. So when we have something that's in the back of the agenda and we have one staff member sit here for an hour and a half, that's an extra additional cost on us too, an hour and a half of staff wages. So in thinking of both of those things, a resident wants 5 minutes of our time, our staff member gets to go home in 20 minutes versus an hour and a half, 2 hours. To me, it's a win-win. I don't know why we wouldn't just hear them just to hear them.
Thank you very much. Anyone further? Okay, I have a comment. I agree with Deputy Mayor Malash that we've dealt with this at the Finance Committee, like we always do. I am willing to support the motion to bring this forward, so said people don't have to sit here all night, but I agree with Deputy Mayor Malash. We've heard all of the complaints, her thoughts. We've talked to administration. We don't need to go through that all again. I'm prepared to move it ahead so we can get it dealt with, but I can't support the motion as it is to allow the lady to speak or the family to speak. So as it is, I will be voting to turn the motion down only because we don't need to hear it again. Okay? That's my thought. So that's 3 of us who spoke to the motion. Anyone else? Okay, I'll ask the question. All in favor of moving it forward and allowing the family to speak? All in favor?
Can I ask for a recorded vote?
Oh, okay. Recorded vote requested.
On the question of moving this item to public presentations and allowing Ms. Chevalier to speak and present to the issue, Councilor Vokes, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Caxero?
Support.
Councilor Snively? Deputy Mayor Malash? Mayor McDermott?
Opposed?
And Councilor Bondi?
Support.
With a vote of 4 in support and 2 oppose, the motion is carried.
Okay, now we get back to business at hand. Right now is looking for a motion to adopt the published agenda as changed. Councilor Snively? Anyone want to second that? I will. Let's not fall asleep, council members, now. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? No one opposed? Okay. Carries.
Item 4 on the agenda this evening, Mr. Chair.
We're going to move that ahead right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're going to move, whichever one it is here, the finance minutes. Where is it?
Point of order, shouldn't the Canadian Mental Health Association go first?
I don't know, you wanted to move right up front, so doesn't matter to me. Councilor Bundy.
It was my understanding that they were after the Canadian Mental Health Association, since they
Okay.
were a registered.
Okay, that's okay with me. Go ahead, sir.
So item 4 is adoption of minutes, approval of the October 3rd regular council meeting minutes.
Councilor Bundy, Deputy Mayor Malash, any questions? In favor? Motion carries.
Item 5, 5A, under public presentations, this evening is a presentation by Claudio DeBoer, CEO from the Canadian Mental Health Association, speaking to mental health promotion and suicide prevention.
Welcome, young lady. And when you, the button's already been pushed.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's my distinct pleasure to bring this presentation to all of you. And we're very excited about our Vision 2020 at the Canadian Mental Health Association Windsor-Essex branch. So I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about the programs that we offer and the direction that we're headed, as well as the particular strategic priority around mental health promotion, and a component of that which is suicide prevention. So I just want to let you know that I have been with the agency for about 1.5 years, and I'm still learning. I know what I don't know. But there are a couple of things that I would like to share with you that I think are important points related to mental health. One is a definition that I particularly appreciate from the World Health Organization, which defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, copes with the normal stresses of life, works productively, and contributes to his or her communities. And I think that is something that we could certainly all espouse. And it's more than just an absence of mental illness. It enables people to experience life as meaningful and to be creative, productive members of society. I know that I was shocked when I first joined the agency to discover that in a 12-month period, 1 in 5 people will experience a significant mental health and/or substance use problem, leading to personal suffering and interference with life goals. Mental illness can affect all ages and all walks of life. Every day, 500,000 Canadians miss work due to some type of psychiatric issue. Suicide accounts for 24% of all deaths among 15 to 24-year-olds and is one of the leading causes of death from adolescence to middle age. Stigma and discrimination are real barriers. They're obstacles to education, employment, adequate housing, and to basic health and social services, to name but a few. And I thought it would be appropriate for you to be able to hear from some of our clients just what they're dealing with and what CMHA means to them.
At your lowest of lows, you're in a basement, and you have to gradually get up all those stairs to get to that door that has the light. And each step is one thing to help you, and CMHA is one of my steps. My doctor is another step. If one of those steps breaks, you can't get to the top.
People, shouldn't be shoved aside. I think this organization gives them a chance to say, hey, look at me, making the community aware of those people out here that they have a lot to give.
Stigma's there. There was an individual that I had mentioned, well, my son, I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but he does have paranoid schizophrenia. And his first reaction was, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you." And that struck me, and I'm thinking, well, why should you feel sorry for him? What if my son had diabetes? He would be taking insulin, and you wouldn't have made that comment. My son has schizophrenia, and he's taking his medication, and he's just the same as a diabetic. And I guess that struck me, that you're back again to the stigma.
It's not an illness any more than a physical illness is. You can't see it, but that's okay. It's a service, just like other services are, but this one caters to my emotional and mental, spiritual needs.
There's many times in the illness, you don't feel like getting up. It's heavy. You feel like weight is just holding you there. You don't want to get out of your pajamas. You don't want to shower. I look forward to my meetings every week. I have my questions ready. I have what I need to work on. Lindsay goes, page by page and says, okay, let's work on this, and this is what we're going to work on. And she's now one of my foundations of my steps.
2011, our son Julian passed away from head trauma due to an accident he had. At the beginning, we thought, no, we should be able to handle this. We should be okay. We have each other and we can work through this.
You come to realize that we need to be there. The strength in numbers. Nobody in the outside world, no matter on how close they are, brother, sister, mother, father, have any clue other than the parents in that room.
Having a down day or down time and the phone rings and it's Colleen. And I've asked her, how do you know I needed to talk to you? How do you know that I needed to connect to you? And it's just the compassion they have, the door is always open.
Unfortunate, the wheel will never stop. There will be other parents. Throw it into that river. You participate when you can, but if all you do is come in with your antenna up and your ears open, there's a benefit to that.
With the program, we were able to find comfort knowing that we are very much normal, just that we have to find what they call a new normal, a new way of living, a new way of coping with our grief, and learn how to mourn our son.
People that are mentally ill feel alone, isolated. They have nowhere to go where they can feel comfortable. Here gives a place for them to be able to get the help that they need and for them to feel comfortable to do what they do. And mental illness is not any worse or better than physical illness. And we have to have that attitude in our society.
CMHA gives you the extra added voice to live. The mental health problem of that individual is at the forefront of CMHA. You're not alone in your journey. It's nice to have an organization like this because the voices can be heard.
So we really think it's the client that tells the story in a most powerful way. So just a couple of facts with respect to CMHA. We have about 151 staff. We serve a number of clients. We have a community health center called City Center Healthcare. Last year we served almost 1,800 individuals, and in our mental health and addiction programs, almost 2,500. We have a formal collaboration partnership with Hotel du Grace Healthcare, and together we're committed to delivering better mental health outcomes, building a more integrated, coordinated mental health system, and keeping the person at the center of all we do. We're also building new partnerships with Family Services Windsor, with the Windsor-Essex County Public Health Unit, City of Windsor, and others as we strive to implement our new plan. In Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat says, if you do not know where you're going, any path will get you there. So one of the first things that I started when I first joined the agency was to look at developing a strategic plan. And we first looked then at what are some of the key trends and directions. Mental health, as I said earlier, crosses the lifespan. It's focused on recovery and well-being for people of all ages. And we know, like with many other physical diseases, providing help early means a better outcome in the long run. It's about making sure that there's access to the right combination of services, treatments, and supports wherever the individual might be, and to reduce disparities in risk factors and access to services. Integrating the system and enhancing community mental health services is very much a part of the focus that we're undertaking in our Vision 2020, and to work with diverse groups to address their mental health needs. And our local health integrated network is focusing on a number of special populations like newcomers, First Nations, Inuit, Métis, just to name a few. So we came through with a new mission that speaks to CMHA Windsor-Essex as a lead provider and advocate of community mental health services. And we achieve this through treatment, collaboration, education, and community engagement. And we have a provincial and national association, and that vision is mentally healthy people in a healthy society. We also have a bit of a tagline, because sometimes visions and missions don't stick in one's brain, and our staff really felt that this spoke to them in terms of the work that they do every day with our clients, which is about empowering transitions to wellness. Just a couple of comments about our core services. As I mentioned, we have a primary care community health center who serves a catchment area within Windsor, but also is responsible to care for anyone with a mental health or addiction diagnosis in Windsor-Essex that does not currently have a family practitioner. We provide intensive case management, so for very complex mental health and addiction clients, we look to wrap services around them so that they can have the supports that they need on the road to their recovery. We also have a justice program that provides case management, but specifically for those individuals who have had some issue with the law or are already in the criminal justice system and would qualify to be processed through the mental health court, which includes judges and lawyers who have been specially trained to understand some of the nuances to those struggling with a mental health or addiction diagnosis, as well as working with those who have been released from custody and helping them to re-enter the community and the social structure that will hopefully be there to support them. We also provide supportive housing. We have over 300 locations where we provide rent supplements for individuals who are at risk of being homeless or homeless, along with the supports that they need to be successful contributors to the community. We provide peer support programs so those with lived experience can share with others who are on the journey and help them to be successful. We also know how important employment is in long-term success, and so we help individuals, whether it's to get their resume together or to actually do the job hunt, and to as well support them once they do get a position or a job. We have, as you heard in the video, an excellent bereavement program that's been around for almost 40 years, supporting adults, children, and youth through the grief process. And sometimes that takes longer and is a bit more complex than what you might expect to go through. And so this team is there to help to support individuals through that. And a new strategic priority that we very clearly heard from the community was that they wanted us to get back into the business of providing mental health promotion and awareness. The strategic priorities that we have identified and that the board has now embraced is to leverage our core services to navigate, support, and empower individuals through transitions to recovery and wellness, to make sure that we have sustainable resourcing for the programs and services to fulfill the mission of the CMHA Windsor-Essex, to increase mental health awareness through education, advocacy, and community engagement, and to lead collaborative initiatives to build an integrated system of mental health services. Just to take a moment then to focus on the whole area of mental health promotion and awareness and our focus on training and education. So in the area of mental health awareness, one of the key roles that we play, along with partners like the Windsor-Essex County Public Health Unit, is in the area of suicide prevention, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We have a Ride Don't Hide, where we garner donors to sponsor a ride every year, 10, 20, 50, and I think we had 100-kilometer rides this year. It's very fruitful in terms of raising funds for this work. Health fairs, we have a website and a number of media communication initiatives. We have a number of signature programs that are run provincially: Living Life to the Full, Mental Health Works, Assist, and Safe Talk, working with the OHL and young junior players and helping them to identify the signs and symptoms of suicide or emotional stress. Wellness seminars and training. So this is a very robust and active area of focus now for us. And we're targeting schools, colleges, university, workplaces, the general community, and looking at high-risk populations, in particular newcomers, seniors, youth, the LGBTQ community, and First Nations. And then finally, with respect to our work in suicide prevention, and I do want to thank you for the support you've provided in our most recent suicide prevention initiative across Windsor and Essex. But some stats that I think are really quite staggering and tell us why this is such important work is that the World Health Organization has identified that suicide will contribute more than 2% to the global burden of disease by 2020. And just bringing it now then into the Canadian arena, 4,000 suicides annually in Canada occur, and 1,200 of those are in Ontario. And the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit just did a very fulsome report on statistics between 2003 and 2011 for Windsor-Essex, and have noted that suicide rates are highest in the male population. In individuals aged 45 to 64, you see the greatest age-specific rate of suicide. It is the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, and the highest rates in looking across Windsor-Essex were in East, West, and downtown Windsor. This is largely preventable, and so our community and our leadership role in this has a number of goals. One is to establish a suicide prevention committee, which has occurred, to raise awareness through education, which is the role that we're endeavoring to take on, to build a culture of help-seeking behavior, and to increase the ability to recognize invitations to help and then to know how to intervene. These are the things that the research has demonstrated to us will change these statistics. So that's our Vision 2020. We have a really great video that has a number of voices from the community, but I appreciate the time that you've given, and so we'll forego that. Maybe we'll come back another time, but thank you for your time. I'd be very happy to answer questions.